In the year 2021, we are so used to seeing generic branded medicine next to the real brand. We're used to seeing generic branded soup or tomatoes next to, the more expensive one. But what about in pianos? Are there generic pianos?
Sure there are, but who makes them?
Who makes them? Today we're talking about Stencil pianos. Very common today in the piano showrooms around the world, around the country. What are Stencil pianos? What do they mean about the instrument that you are playing? And what should you know about stencil manufacturing?
Hi, this is Ted with Alamo Music Center in downtown San Antonio, Texas.
And I'm Patrick Marr. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channels, check out our other videos, sign up for notifications, like our videos, leave us comments. We appreciate your support and we love to interact with you.
If you want to leave a different name on your comments, go right ahead, because that'll be a stencil comment.
A stencil. So in the world, as the intro said, we're very used to this concept of there might be a cheaper version of X, Y, or Z, the generic branding. In pianos, it's a little bit different. It has a rich history of manufacturers wanting to offer a less expensive product, that still is backed by their branding name. And so you saw this a lot in different manufacturers. One that comes to mind is Baldwin with Hamilton and Howard. Had other manufacturers create a product for them. And then, it was a Baldwin family product, and it was, by Baldwin. Usually on the right side of the fall board, it would say a Baldwin product, but then it would be Howard or Hamilton, and when it was manufactured by, I think Kawai made them for a little bit.
Yeah, those were real popular in Canada, and in fact, I think they used Canadian spruce soundboards on those pianos, and that was part of the deal that Kawai or Baldwin, one of those on that joint partnership where they built those pianos, that was one of the requirements. I can't remember who wanted those soundboards in there, but I had a couple customers come in here, and we've had those pianos in here from time to time. They never last. No, they're gone immediately.
And they're cool stories, because a lot of times they tie together a couple manufacturers all in the same product, which is a neat piece of history. But it's interesting to see where stencil pianos had their origin. Even when you go back to, I know we've talked about on this channel before, when upright pianos were kind of on a train and they dropped off the parts, and we could have made our own piano brand and called it Ted and Patrick's piano, but the insides were all very similar and made in the same place.
Well, see, this goes back to the conversation we were having about manufacturing. So let's say that Ted and Patrick open up their piano manufacturer. We build a plant where we're going to make pianos, and then we say we need to hire salesmen so we can sell all the stuff that we make. That's the way I look at it. But Patrick says, no, we need to we'll get those salesmen, but we also need a salesman to go out around the world and offer to make stuff for people that want stuff made. And that's where stencil pianos come from. You may first get, hey, I just want a bunch of hammers. I need 28,000 hammers to put in my pianos. Specialization. And that also allows a plant to thoroughly train and work its employees to where that in confidence, and next time you get an order for 28,000 hammers, you don't have to go back there and show them how to do it. The guys already know how. And so your salesman can sell confidently based on the work ethic and the work results of the plant. So there's two kind of salesmanship coming out of every piano manufacturing facility. And so at one time, there was listed over 10,000 different manufacturers, but that includes guys that never even touched a piece of glue or a piece of wood. They just did it all on paper. Buy my felt, buy my actions, buy my thing, and I'll get these guys down the street to put it together for me, and I'm a piano manufacturer.
And it's interesting that through that process and refinement of piano manufacturing, a couple brands, rose to the next level of household names.
Those were the top guys in the conglomeration of buying up all the pianos, and those are the guys that got stuck in the 80s or in the 70s and 80s with owning all these piano names that they couldn't sell anymore.
Aeolian.
Well, I could There were bunches of Ampico was the
Ampico.
they made that was the end result, I think, of the Kohler and Campbell pneumatic piano action for all the player pianos.
Yeah, so there was that side of manufacturing, and then there was brands that actually built a lot of their instruments, like Kohler and Campbell, one of the pianos right behind us, a name that kind of was established. Same with Baldwin, an established name that made a quality instrument for many years, and many people today, their grandparents or great grandparents
had a Kohler and
they
Campbell.
had the Kohler and Campbell. They had a Baldwin Acrosonic. They had they had all these different names. Kimball. They had these names in their their living rooms. They grew up seeing these instruments, and maybe they still have them there today. And the brand carried with it a certain recognized quality, and which has value, and so we fast forward to today, and you see a lot of manufacturing names that have been bought up. Kohler and Campbell, right behind us as an example, the name is owned by Samick,
right. And
so Samick builds their Samick pianos in Korea and in Indonesia, really a quality instrument, but they recognize how strong a brand name can be, and they bought in 1985. They bought the name Kohler and Campbell, and since then have created over the years different Kohler and Campbell models. Really, it's a Samick. Every componentry aspect of it is the Samick, but the name Kohler and Campbell adds a little bit.
Still selling on it.
Yeah, and it kind of adds value to it right there.
Well, a lot of the Japanese piano manufacturers, and certainly the Korean and the Chinese piano manufacturers, since we lost so many piano manufacturers here in the United States, have done the same thing. In other words, they would go out and market their pianos that they build, and also look for names that are selling to this day that they could possibly produce pianos for.
Baldwin, too.
Baldwin. Yeah, 20 plus years ago, I went to the Baldwin factory, and in that one Baldwin location, they were making anywhere from a 9-foot concert grand down to an upright Baldwin, a furniture style. And they were also building all of the grands for the Chickering line, and they built all of the Wurlitzer pianos. They were not building grands, they were building Wurlitzer uprights. So there were Wurlitzer and then Chickering and Baldwin pianos coming out of the same factory in the same plant. And the labor forces were pretty much the same with the exception of the concert piano makers. And they would rotate throughout. So one day you could be stringing up a Wurlitzer and then stringing up a Baldwin or stringing up a Chickering. And that was probably the last of the American stencil type manufacturing, because by that time, Samick already owned a number of American and so-called German American names for their pianos. And if you look at now who's manufacturing pianos to this day, Pearl River still makes Stencil pianos. Kawai still makes pianos for other manufacturers. And I don't know, I think Yamaha only makes Yamaha stuff. But they also, at one time, about 10, 15 years ago, were really pushing and producing the Cable Nelson brand, which was like a lower type of Yamaha brand.
Yeah, so it was in its own way a Stencil. So it's important to know what a Stencil piano is, and it's what its value is, because you think about a manufacturer like Kawai. We'll use Kawai as an example. Really only makes pianos for themselves, and then a piano for Steinway, which is the Boston piano. And it's important to know that Kawai and these manufacturers who do it, Pearl River makes the S6 for Steinway as well. So Steinway uses Kawai and Pearl River as their back end of their Stencil OEM product. And to know that a manufacturer will never make a better product for someone else than they would make as their brand.
Their brand.
And it's an important distinction to say, because a lot of times you'll see a really strong name like Steinway get stamped on there, and the price a lot of the times will be more expensive because it is a Steinway, but the product will be at best equal. But really, a lot of these companies will say, we would never make a product that's better than our product for someone else. That's not a good market strategy. That's not. No matter how much money you give us, we're going to make the best product for our brand. And so I think that's an important thing to know when looking at Stencil instruments. but also, you know, just seeing all the American names that you recognize, Wurlitzer, Kohler and Campbell, all these things, it's powerful marketing in the brain, and then seeing Samick, Pearl River, who's actually manufacturing. There's a bunch of Chinese manufacturers that also do it.
Right. And it's like, in selling a piano like that in a retail environment, a lot of times people say, man, I really like the way the piano looks, I really like the way it sounds, but I've never really heard of a Vivace or a Harugel piano before. And what are those? Those are names that were picked up by the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And so in most instances, a lot of them are Samick.
Yeah.
I mean, they manufacture a lot of Stencil pianos.
Yeah, and a lot of them come out of their Indonesian factory, not out of their Korean factory.
And a lot of them go to Europe. I mean, because it's not just in the United States. I mean, there's piano business all over the world, so there are these other names throughout Europe and Asia that people recognize.
And so you can find a lot of value in a Stencil instrument. It's not saying that, oh, this piano is bad because it's, you know, more of a generic piano. It's just that you're not always comparing apples to apples. When you see an old Baldwin made in America, let's use an example like a 90s Baldwin Grand made in the USA, it's going to be a much better instrument than, you know, a mid-2000s Baldwin Grand that was made in China after they sold off to Gibson Guitars and were manufactured. You know, the only similarity is the Baldwin on the fall board.
The name, that's it. Yeah, those pianos are nowhere near like they were when they were American made.
And it's not to say that the Chinese-made Baldwin is a bad piano. It's just not going to be the same level as that USA-made, and people really go after those instruments because they're just different quality, different level of craftsmanship, and really kind of a nice instrument.
And we had a couple times over the since I've been here, some of our vendors and suppliers that if we were buying a certain model of, say, a Pearl River piano or something, and there was one time we'll get in trade a piano that back from the 60s or 70s, and it says Alamo on it, and it was one that company that we bought from, whether it was more than likely probably Baldwin or one of the Stencil pianos, they say this is just exactly like that, but we put your name on it just so you have a piano with your name on it to sell. So, and then I'm sure it wouldn't take much for us if we wanted to put our own piano out.
Yeah, there's options to do that.
There's options, but it's like, why would you want to build a piano unless you actually sat down and designed it? And then the costs are going to change. If you start, I want this action, I want this kind of felt, they'll probably build it for you, but they're going to say, we're not building you one of these, man. You need to buy like 50 or 100 of them.
So there's interesting economics behind Stencil instruments, and just know what you're looking at. It can really change the quality.
Making the most out of your manufacturing facility and retail environment.
Yeah, and so just wanted to touch on what Stencil pianos are and what their purpose serves. Not saying that having a Stencil instrument is bad at all. It's just, it is a different beast, especially in the modern age when there's only 3 pianos being manufactured in the U.S., piano brands being manufactured here, and all these names still exist. But if you guys have any comments on that, please don't hesitate to leave some comments, because I know a lot of people have questions about this very subject, and we were trying to be as open as possible about this and the situation. If you've owned a Stencil piano and loved it, I'm sure there's a lot of people. Please leave comments, let people know, hey, I've got this great Wurlitzer that I bought, and it was made by Samick, and I got this great Kohler and Campbell. There's a whole bunch of great products out there. But yeah, tell your stories. Again, thank you guys for watching. This is Ted Barslew. I'm Patrick Marr with Alamo Music. We'll see you next time.